One of the things about this show is that the guests aren't really different than you or me. We try our best to do as much as we can in as many different ways as we can to make a difference and to make an impact on the people that matter to us. That's all it really boils down to. And our guest today is in the military. Our guest today is a lawyer. Our guest today is an entrepreneur. She's also a mom. And we're going to talk to Katy Spicer next on Purpose Under Pressure. The heat is on. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about people, business people, people that get up every day, swing their feet out of bed, put them on the floor, go to work, going to get something done, and then the pressures rise to knock us off our path. And that's hard until we realize that our purpose is something that needs to be protected, driven, and can drive that pressure away. So that's what this is all about. And I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate that you're coming back. If you've heard the show or watched the show before, if you do like the show, if you'd give us a follow or subscribe, we really do appreciate that. It's not for nothing, because when someone can come to the show, find it, see that you like it, well, maybe it's worth it for them to give some of their very important time to check it out. And if we're going to change some lives out there that are in the career world and trying to figure things out for themselves, we need them to listen. So if you don't mind helping us out there, we'd really appreciate it at Purpose Under Pressure. The show is brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group, serving sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They're also in Jacksonville, Florida. They provide sales training for salespeople, business organizations that rely on revenue. They do it the right way. That's why they're a sponsor of the show and a partner of this show, because they do things on purpose. It's not about closing the sale. It's about how you portray yourself, how you come across, how you help people solve their solutions and solve their problems with solutions. And that's the right way to sell. I've done it for 35 years. I'm a proud member of what they do at Sandler. And the Ruby Group is just fantastic at it. So we thank them for their partnership, and I hope you'll reach out to them. You can check them out online at therubygroup.sandler.com. My guest today on Purpose Under Pressure, this is going to be a fun show. One, I love talking with veterans. I love talking with anyone that has anything to do with the military. There's many shows in Purpose Under Pressure and Dash of Grit before that talk about the military. I don't think there's any more purposeful under pressure job, for lack of better words, service than that. And I appreciate everything that every person that serves. I didn't get to. I've told that to many others. I wish I did. I can't go back. But hopefully we can help build that. So Katy Spicer, she is a lieutenant colonel with the Marine Reserve. She's also, and that's what's kind of fun about this show, she's also a commercial litigation attorney with Squire, Patton, and Boggs. She's very importantly, and maybe most importantly for this show, an aspiring entrepreneur with a company called Athena. And I will tell you that also coincides with her being a mom. Katy, that's a lot. Are you doing all that stuff and doing it well?
No. Just surviving, right? Surviving, not
Surviving.
thriving. Yeah.
One of the fun things about this show is that people listen and they're in the same, I hope that they're find themselves opportunity to be motivated or feel like at least they're not the only ones in that position. And you're trying to get things done. I'm interested. What's driving you? Why do you stay so busy? Why is this so important for you as a mom and as a military veteran and as a attorney and an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, the motherhood journey is the most important. And it's important for me to raise my son, seeing me work hard, seeing that there's a ton of opportunity, seeing that whatever you want to do in this country, there's a platform to let it happen. So, the backbone to my why is certainly my son, and he's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
So I keep my sanity some days.
Your son helps you keep your sanity. Now I'm not sure if everybody will understand that.
Yeah.
That's not the way that was in my world. My world, my son took every bit of my sanity with him until we could figure it out.
Right.
How did you realize that they have these platforms? That's one of the issues that people have. We've all, the old guard,
Mhm.
grew up thinking that we needed to be a doctor or a lawyer or a whatever, and yet there's so many opportunities now that we didn't even know existed, and yet you're tuned into that. How did that happen?
Yeah, I think, so I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Uh, Anybody that knows anything about Detroit or Detroiters, it's a very gritty town, a very American centric town. Thank you for Auto USA and making Detroit what it was. So early on, just growing up in a place that was very patriotic, I think it was just instilled in me very young that we live in a place that you can figure out and do whatever you want. And so, um, and a lot of that was based on my family example. My grandfather, he grew up as a farmer in middle of nowhere, Tennessee. This gentleman by the name of Henry Ford came along. They saw an ad in the paper where they could move up to Detroit, make $5 a week working in a factory. He moved up his whole family to Michigan, and that's kind of where our family American dream started. It was on the factory floor of the River Rouge plant in Detroit. And so seeing that example from an early age, uh, it just kind of lit a fire in me. And the service piece came in elementary school. I took my first trip to Washington, D.C., and my mom, she grew up in Queens, New York, so to Hungarian parents,
Okay.
and lost a lot of dear friends in the Vietnam War. So she took me to the Vietnam Memorial. So there I am in fourth grade, watching my mom in tears as she's carving out the names. If you've ever been to the Vietnam Memorial, you can sketch the names.
Yeah.
Sketching out the names of her best friends. And it hit me there looking at her, and then you would look across the memorial and you'd see all the letters, flowers, everything that was left. And that's when it hit me like, wow, this is America. Like, people come and they live here and they die for their country, and it just means something. And that's where the service heart struck me, and where I realized, okay, I can grow up and I can serve my country. And then just it kind of all flowed from there. I joined the Marine Corps after college. I served almost 14 years on active duty before I went into private practice, and the momentum just kept going from looking at the Vietnam Memorial in elementary school to being in private practice today. So,
And that's what drove you. Is that still kind of what's driving you? And so I'm starting to put this together now.
yeah, absolutely. We get to live in what I feel is the greatest country in the world. And my why will always be like, we can be anything we want to in this country, and you just get to figure out what you want that to be and go for it. And with a little hard work and some grit, it can happen.
Yeah. And how did that desire to serve the country, based on the purpose that you had,
Mm-hmm.
transfer into being an
Mm-hmm.
attorney, a litigation attorney? I'm sure the same purpose is in place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the Marine Corps actually sent me to law school. I was really fortunate in that regard, and I did a 6-year payback in the Marine Corps, and I was at the end of that payback tour, and I looked back at my Marine Corps journey, and I was like, God, I've gotten to do everything I want to do in the Marine Corps. Made incredible friends, did a lot of unthinkable things, but in my heart, the intuition was, okay, well, it's time to get into the private sector and start to figure that out. And so I made the decision to resign my active duty, transition to the reserves, and I was very fortunate that Squire Patton Boggs opened their doors to me, and I joined the firm, and here we are. So,
And how
yeah,
long ago did you switch over from military life to civilian?
2016. So,
2016. So, can you share with me, and I know there's a lot of pressure really in both of those worlds,
yeah.
which experience has formed you the most? Let's talk
Oh,
about some pressure.
yeah.
What have you Where did you learn the most, or what have you learned from both?
Yeah, I mean, um, both are pressure cookers. And it's funny, being in private practice, so many people will say, oh my gosh, you know, you were in the Marine Corps. That must have been so hard and so challenging. And I'm like, no, listen, folks, the most challenging thing there is are these ambitious young litigation associates, working in these global law firms. Like, the talent that I get to work with today is just the hardest working, smartest people I've ever worked with.
Wow.
And so the pressure cooker that we're in today, where we are hired to solve our clients' hardest problems, and as a litigator, their most combative and high conflict problems, is just, it's fascinating. And our teams work incredibly hard, and that's a much different pressure than what you had in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is very much you're living and breathing every single day to train for that next fight. So that pressure in terms of being physically ready, mentally ready, team ready, resource ready, is far different. But I think in both environments, I think the pressure that I got to work under and alongside with just remarkable Marines for a long time, over those time periods, you develop resiliency. And I think it's those resiliency skills that has a lot like followed me through to the private sector, where it's like, okay, you got companies that are dealing with what we call like bet the company litigation, and how we get to be that calm for our clients in those just ferocious storms. And a lot of that I pulled from a lot of the resiliency and lessons learned that I got growing up in the Marine Corps, and bringing that to what we do for clients today.
And so what is driving the entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah. So I think, it's really important. You don't want to stay stagnant in life, right? Like, we are given an opportunity here as Americans and the platform that we have to be, what can I be doing? Where can I be going? And I think the way that I look at it is, to me, Katy's version of the American dream is, okay, serving the military, the home ownership, those types of things, getting to be a mother, working in private practice, but then being a business owner. And to me, that the next two journeys I want to have on the tail end of my professional career is bringing up and raising alongside my partner James a profitable company, and saying that we did it, and bringing our American dream to life through the company is called Athena, through Athena. And then on the backside of that, the goal is to really get into philanthropy on the backside of my journey. So
Wow. So it's almost full circle.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
giving back
Trying. Trying.
Yeah. I mean, that's all any of us are doing is
Yeah.
trying to do. But that sounds like that's really what you're trying to do. You feel proud, you feel blessed to be here, and you want to do everything you can to give back. How does all that, and we're going to bring it back full circle again, how does all that tie to being a mom? There's got to be pressure to be. You said first, right off the bat, I'm a mom.
Yeah.
That was what we started with.
Yeah.
I've got it on tape if you want to look back at it. I'm a
Yeah.
mom first. And yet you've got military, you've got business as an attorney, you're driving entrepreneurial. What's the pressure that is coming that either fuels or holds back growth because you're just not going to give up on the very best mom that you can be?
So the pressure, when I hear pressure, I think of competing priorities, and I think that's what everybody deals with.
That's right.
So balancing those priorities. And Brian, the phrase I hate the most in life, and I think we do a disservice to the younger professional generation, where we talk about work-life balance, right? Like, what is work-life balance? And when anybody says that, I just, like, there's no such thing. Like, if you...
Thank you. I've been saying that for, yeah. I wondered what you were going to say about it. I was going to have to argue with you. No, there's no such thing.
No, there's no such thing. And not if you want to continue to live out your version of the American dream, be successful, raise a healthy and happy child, yeah. So it's just managing those competing priorities and how you do that.
So how do you do it now? Because it's easier said than done. There is no such thing as work-life balance, because that's just blah. Nothing ever gets done, right? But how do you get everything done without losing sight of one or the other?
Yeah. So I think for me, communication is very important to your circle, and everybody understanding where each other's priorities are. And sometimes for me, it's got to be, well, the Marine Corps is giving me this opportunity, even as a reservist right now, so this has to be my priority. So that means, some of these things are going to have to go. Maybe I'm not going to be at every soccer practice, or I'm going to miss weekends and games, or vice versa. There's sometimes where motherhood and my child has to be the number one priority. And, it's just communicating back down the line what boundaries you have to put in place. And, and I hate to say give up, because it's all intentional, but you intentionally just have to manage your priorities, and know where you're taking risk and what you're giving up, and just be steadfast in the decisions that you're making.
when I talk about it and work life balance, and it's so important. People want it so badly, and I know what they want. I know what they want. They don't want to go overboard on one side and forget
Right.
the other. And
Right.
I've often said, I think the way I approach it is to be all in, 100% in on what I'm doing at the moment, what I've decided to do at the moment, not just what
Mhm.
emergency cropped up, but what
Mhm.
I'm doing. So if I'm
Mhm.
with my kids, if I'm with my wife, I'm with my family, I'm all in,
Right.
100% in,
Right.
if I can be.
Right.
If I'm working, I've got things in place so that they're good to go, and I'm all in.
Mhm.
And I think it's also important that you prioritize your goals, because we can all say we're a mom and we're a dad, but if we
Right.
don't have goals for what that looks like,
Mhm.
then that can fall aside real quick to what
Mhm.
the boss wants us to do, what the
Right.
military calls us to do, or whatever it
Right.
might be, and we might lose track of what's also very, very
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
Very good, very interesting. So
Mhm.
when you're working on those kinds of things, what pressures do you think are going to come? Tell me a little bit about Athena, because entrepreneurial growth takes a
Mhm.
lot, and we're talking about work-life balance.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial growth, you're bootstrapping that thing. Talk to me
It,
about that.
yeah. So it's been in the works for about a year now. And James Collins, my business partner, we served in the Marine Corps together, and we've stayed in contact. We're pretty like minded individuals. And last fall we were just talking and threw out the concept, and he's like, we're just gonna do it, right? Like where we would sleep, we're just gonna spend time starting to put this together. And so we
Hmm.
did. We put the wheels in motion. And it, that comes down to the priorities. Like, so these are some of the things I'm gonna have to give up to start getting the company going. But it's not easy, especially when my clients and my son have to come. They're tied for first.
Yeah, right, right.
But, uh, but it's just about getting momentum and right and understanding you can't do it all at once, and just setting those small goals. Okay, well, our goal this quarter is we're just going to get our governance structure in place. Okay, done. The next goal is, okay, we're going to be setting up a podcast and getting that framework together. And so just those incremental goals, taking a step back and realizing you can't build it overnight, but being very deliberate and strategic with how you're developing it and building it. And having the right business partner, right?
Hmm.
So that matters. Um, James and I, we very much inspire each other. We understand each other very well. So when I'm going off the rails, he can get me back on the rails, and vice versa. And I think having the right people in your circle and in your tribe is incredibly important. You can't do it alone. You can't do
Yeah.
anything alone. So,
So
yeah.
in the military, you had a specific job to do, and you did it very well. As a litigation expert, you have to play within the rules. There's a specific job to do, and you
Mhm.
do it very well. As an entrepreneurial person,
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
starting from scratch. You can build
Right.
anything you want to do. There's really no constraints.
Mhm. That's right.
How will you, as a very, very busy person, how will Athena in your mind be different, be better, be greater? How will it be very, very successful? Because you can choose that now. Today,
Mhm.
it's not built yet. You can choose what it looks like. I'm interested in what it looks like and how it's going to be better or different than really any other company like it in the world. That's your opportunity, right? That's your opportunity to build.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
not going to build that, why build anything?
Right. Right. Right.
So, how will that be the case?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Brian. I don't know if I've thought about it like that, because we're in our infancy and just trying to get going. But really, the big theme for Athena is believing in America and putting our money behind where our mouths are. And our goal and what's going to make it remarkable is strategic investments, investing in American businesses that we believe in. And in the first quarter of 2025, we're super excited. We're going to be rolling out our first investment. We're going to be announcing that the company that we're putting some money behind,
Hmm.
and just growing it organically in that way. And it's going to be no surprise, certainly to anybody that knows me, and certainly not to James, because I pound this all the time. And our focus is really, where are women in this country thriving, and how can we support them to do that? So a large part of our efforts is, we are going to be this woman-owned veteran business that is just going to get behind other just dynamic women businesses, and help them grow and be successful. So that's our goal.
I thought you hadn't thought of it. Did you hear what you just said? That's tremendous. You knew
Yeah.
it. You just hadn't written it down on paper. But yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you're doing that. I'm glad you're going to support that. How old is your son?
7.
And he your only child?
Only child.
Okay, so we're
I don't
heading
know.
into the stormy years. We're heading into
Yes.
the which
Yeah.
last about 40 years, but
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
heading into that space. I'm interested in the pressure that's coming next. You're doing all these things. You're not going
Mhm.
to leave. You're going to be a part of the reserves still,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
You're going to be earning your keep as a litigation attorney.
That's right.
You're going to be a mom.
Hmm.
What's the pressure that's going to get in the way that you're going to have to overcome to bring that goal to reality with Athena?
Everyone in the organization needs to know how to sell. Sales is the strength of any company. Whether or not you're in marketing, operations, or even finance, everyone has a strong shared accountability towards driving top-line revenue. Whether or not you're client-facing or talking over the phone, you're able to build a stronger level of rapport with the clients. Everyone in the organization shares that responsibility to know how to sell.
What's the pressure that's going to get in the way that you're going to have to overcome to bring that goal to reality with Athena?
So it's the time. Making the time right. Everyone has the time constraints. That's the biggest pressure. There's just never enough
Yeah.
time. It's funny you say that about the child transition. He just turned 7, and I loved 6, and this transition to 7. It's been like, wow, this is. I wasn't ready for this, but
In a good way or in a bad way?
yeah. Um,
Both.
just a very strong personality, high
Okay.
energy, like a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Um, but that keeps me energized, and I think so when you have another thing that's stripping at your time, making sure your child understands why that is, and so I bring him into everything. So, for example, this week we're finalizing our design and our logos and all those things. He's sitting right next to me while we're doing that, and he's as we go, and I communicate to him like, he's an adult, not like a child. We talk about it, and I give him a platform to express. So in a way, it's getting his buy-in, and that certainly helps kind of de-escalate the fact that here I am bringing another another project into the family dynamic that he has to share his time with.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean that's yeah.
Do you, and I don't mean this to be a difficult question, it probably will be, maybe it won't. Do you think it's fair that I sit here and go, wow, look at this mom who's doing all these things, when men are just expected to do it and let mom take care of the kid, right? I'm not trying to offend anybody, but that's the perspective that
Right.
people have. And I think people watching or listening to the show going, what is she doing? Stay at home and take care of your kid. And that's not fair. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that, because we put different expectations on different people. This wouldn't be the same conversation if I was talking to Ken Spicer, right?
Yeah.
It would be a different conversation.
Well, yeah, and there certainly is that unconscious gender bias, but I think what the focus just needs to be: who's the provider in the family, right? And what keeps the provider going? I'm the provider of my family,
Mhm.
and so the mechanisms are around where I can continue doing that. But you see that unconscious bias go both ways, and it's funny. I was just talking to my sister about this today. What's been really awesome is to watch our younger male generation that I see in the firm growing up, and not only are they kicking butt at work, they're kicking butt at home too, and they
Yeah,
very
right.
much share in those responsibilities. Certainly, when I first joined the Marine Corps, it wasn't it wasn't like that. All my bosses likely had that traditional family dynamic, and it just doesn't. We just don't have that anymore, right?
Hmm.
But so yeah, I mean, I think that unconscious bias goes both ways. That it's just not a reality where I could stay home, but I will say part of developing that Athena mindset is so when I get to that last third of my professional journey, I can be doing Athena, managing a profitable portfolio, and my child won't even know that I'm working, like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're going
It's
to model after you. They're going to model after your experiences and
right.
how you've shown them how to live life and what's important. And you've made all your choices based on what's important. And that's going to work out just fine. When I asked the question, I didn't question how
Yeah,
you would do it. I
right.
just wondered what
Yeah,
people, why we all think that way and how you
and
dealt
yeah,
with that.
yeah.
One last question. I'm interested in this because like I said, I never served in the military. I don't know what
Hmm.
it's like. I don't pretend to.
Hmm.
Um, is there an experience in the military that you had? You mentioned that it was tough at times. It was
Hmm.
there, and I'm sure it was. Is there an experience that you had there, or even as a litigator, that you can always look back on and say, that happened, and because that happened, I am ready to be a great entrepreneur. I'm ready to take care of the next step for my
Hmm.
son. I'm ready for the next. I mean, is there something that you really learned in that experience that you're carrying with you moving forward?
Brian, it's 23 years of just waking up every day and being like, yeah, yesterday might have sucked, but today we're just going to keep going.
Hmm.
Not necessarily one experience, but just developing that mental mindset of just being gritty and getting up every day and just facing the day, whether it's good or bad. And the ability to do that, I think, just comes with a 23-year career behind me of a whole ton of different experiences. Um, I leadership is a journey, right? You don't just wake up one day being able to lead. And I think that it's just a combination of getting up every day, doing it, learning, growing. So,
No matter what happens. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I
And
don't
I
know if
think there's probably moms and dads out there that are waking up going, "Oh man, yesterday sucked. We got to
yes,
get it done." And the same in business and the same as an entrepreneurial. And I think that's a great answer. So I'm glad that drives you.
yeah,
What would you say to a young person that maybe is trying to figure out what they want to do? You mentioned that there's so many platforms,
right.
and you found your path by
Hmm.
taking a trip to the Vietnam War Memorial, and other people find their paths in different ways. Now, this new generation really has the world at their fingertips,
Hmm.
literally.
Hmm.
What would your suggestion be, and what are you telling your son to make sure that they kind of seek their own path?
Yeah, I think trust your gut, right? There's going to be people around you your entire life that tell you no and what you can and can't do, but you've got to trust in yourself and listen to your intuition. If your heart and soul is telling you to go on a path, go on that path, or
Mm,
else you're going to regret it. So that's one, just listening to your intuition. Two, there's no easy way. Like, you've got to work hard, right? There's no easy way. So just understand that, and that means that there's going to be a lot of discomfort. There's going to be hard days, but just embrace that, because if you push through those hard days, there's a lot of opportunity, communities, people, networks that open up, and that's incredibly rewarding. So those would be the two things.
that's good advice, and I hope people will take it. And Katie, if someone wanted to reach out to you and talk to you either about what you're doing as a litigation attorney, maybe any experience you had in the military, maybe they want mom advice,
Yeah,
and especially for Athena and looking at women-owned businesses and helping bring that American dream to life, how would they reach you?
sure. Just by my email. Very simple. Just the letter K, SPICER, the number 3 at yahoo.com. So that
Tremendous.
that ages me. Yes, I have a Yahoo.
You have it the out. You're the one. You're the one. I knew there was
I'm
one
not
of
giving
you
up
out there.
on it. It's been with me forever.
I tell you what, stick with what you know. That's okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's okay. And we'll never forget it as well. They'll say that's the one with the Yahoo.
Right. That's
And
right.
that's good. That's a differentiator as well. Katie, thank you for joining us on the Purpose Under Pressure podcast. You were talking about James. James was on a past episode of Purpose Under Pressure. It
Okay.
was
Yeah.
interesting. He said, I asked him, I said, isn't that a lot of pressure? Being behind enemy lines and things of that sort. And he says, yeah, but holy cow, I come back here and kids need to get up for school on time. And what are they going to eat in their lunches? And where are we going to get them at night? And that's pressure. He said, in the military, I just was told what to do and I did it. And here,
That's right.
who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So I
Listen.
salute you, and I salute
Yeah.
James, and I salute everyone that's ever put on the uniform. I just can't say it enough. I think I told James this once too. I said, I think people take it for granted. Thank you for your service. But I think when when we say it the right way, it's the best we can do is to say thank you for your service. I can't do it myself. And I
Yeah.
don't know how to ever pretend to have empathy for what you've gone through. So all I can do is say thank you. And I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Katy. That's Katy Spicer. She is Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Reserve. She's a commercial litigation attorney with Squire Patton and Boggs. She's an aspiring entrepreneur with Athena. And like we said, most importantly, she's a mom. And she's our guest on Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group. Sellers are under pressure to perform. Sandler helps you to succeed on purpose. And you'll find all past episodes of this show at brianmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. We do this every week, and we will see you next time on Purpose.